to talk about a very important topic. One of the topics, my wife and I, we actually do a marriage conference in this particular area. And what we call it is pressure proofing your marriage. And as I was preparing this week on what to minister on, I really feel that what's going on in our world and in our country and in our lives today is people really don't know how to handle the pressure of life. When pressure is applied to their life, you have so many people, they're just quitting life. I mean, they're giving up on their marriage, they're giving up on their children, they're giving up on their homes, they're walking away from their jobs, they're walking away from their church, simply because they cannot handle pressure. Nobody has taught us how to do that. Nobody has gave us a manual on when we're having these feelings, when we're having these worries and different things like that, how to handle it, how to go about it in life. So we're going to talk about that this morning on how to handle pressure. And my scripture reference is coming from Mark chapter 4, verse 7. And I'm going to also read Mark chapter 4, verses 18 and 19. Let me read that to you and then we'll get started with the message. Mark chapter 4, verse 7. Mark chapter 4, verse 7. And I heard a preacher say this one time. He said, the book Mark chapter 4 is the most important scripture to a believer in the Bible. He said that's the most important scripture for a believer in the Bible. And I really believe that. But look at this. Mark chapter 4, if you look at verse 7, it says, "And some seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no crop." Now, before he said that, he talked about how a farmer goes out and sows seed. One seed fell by the wayside, and the birds of the air came and ate the seed up. It didn't even have an opportunity to produce. And then it said there was another seed, it fell among the ground, but then it automatically sprung up, but because it did not have any root, when the sun came, it dried the seed out, and that seed died as well. And all of those, I can minister on all of those seeds because I've experienced all of those areas in my life. But the most important one, what I feel that thwarts the growth of a believer, is this third ground right here. He says this seed, when it was sown by the farmer, it fell among thorns. Listen, but it says the thorns grew. And that's what choked the life of the seed. The thorns grew up. Now, you go down to verse 18 and 19, he began to explain. The disciples were confused, and they said, well, what do you mean about that parable? He began to explain each one that he explained. But then he talks about that thorn, when the seed fell among the thorns. He said, now these are the ones sown among thorns. They are the ones who hear the word, and the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and the desires of other things entered in and choked the life of the seed. And that's what caused it to be unfruitful. Thorns, other things. And what were these thorns? He said these thorns was the deceitfulness of riches, the lust of other things, and the cares of life. In other words, what he was saying was pressure. Other things came and choked the life of this seed. Years ago, I used to be a basketball player when I was in high school. Dominant player. And I will never forget, we had an opportunity to go to the playoffs. And I stepped to the line, and we was playing this game, and I came down, and I made a move on the guy, and I got ready to go to the basket, and the guy fouled me. It was only like 2 seconds left to go in the game. They were up by 1. I got fouled in the act of shooting, which means I had an opportunity to shoot 2 free throws. First free throw, if I make the basket, it ties the game. We go into overtime. We had the momentum. We have an opportunity to win. If I make the second free throw, we're on our end of the court. They can't make it to the other end in 2 seconds. We automatically win the game. First time our basketball team had made the playoffs, I had an opportunity to win the game. Step to the line, I get ready to make the free throw. I step up there, and they tell me in the huddle, because my coach called the timeout. Shouldn't have done that, but he called the timeout, brought everybody over, and I must remember, I was a 90% free throw shooter. 90% free throw shooter. So in other words, if you get 10 free throws, I was going to make 9. So 90% free throw shooter. One of the best. It's one of the things I specialized in when I played basketball. Coach called the timeout, brought everybody over to the sideline, and began to discuss the game plan. He said, no pressure. Go up here. George's going to knock these free throws down. We're going to win the game. If he probably wouldn't have called the timeout, I probably would have stepped to the line and automatically knocked them down. But I didn't. I stepped to the line, I dribble, and I could hear everything in the gym. I believe I could hear the baby that was all the way in, that was probably in the parking lot. I could hear everything. It was just so much pressure. My heart was beating twice as fast. So I step up to the line, I bounce the ball, I get ready to shoot the free throw, and I miss the first free throw. It hits the front of the rim. In other words, I shot it just a little bit short. So now I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I have to make the second one, right? So what this coach does at this particular time is he calls a timeout to ice me. He calls a timeout, brings his coach over to the sideline. Coach brings him to the sideline. He says, hey, no pressure. Just knock this down. We'll go to overtime. We'll win the game. I step up to the line, and I miss both free throws. They win the game by 1 point. I did not handle that pressure situation lightly. Here's the thing. What helped me with that situation was after the game, my coach came over, he put his arm around me, and he said, man, I was in the same situation before, and I did the same thing. He said, this is not the end of the world. There'll be other games. And that helped me. Now, if he wouldn't have done that, I would have been still meditating and dwelling on that pressure situation and how I didn't perform at my best, at my highest, something that I was good at, something that I was routine at doing. If I did not, and I didn't perform at my highest level in that moment, I missed it. I would have been meditating on it. I probably would have never played the basketball game again. I probably would have just fell into all kinds of, but because he did that, there are so many times in life that people don't handle pressure the right way. How do you handle pressure? How are you handling pressure right now? Do you quit? Do you throw in the towel? Do you give up? Do you just say it's not worth it? How do you handle pressure? Story balloon. This is my wife. We're doing this marriage company. We have a balloon. See the balloon in my hand? Like I tell my son all the time, use your imagination. Imagine a balloon in my hand filled with clear, pristine water. The clearest water out of the Everglades. It's the pure water. If I take a pen and I poke the side of that balloon, what's going to come out of that balloon? Clear, pristine water. If I take the same balloon and I fill it with mop water mixed with the dirtiest sewage water you can find, and I put it in that same balloon, I apply a prick to it, what's going to come out of that balloon once pressure is applied? That mop water, that nasty water. Let me ask you a question. When pressure is applied to your life, now I'm just gonna, you don't have to make any notes or comments or anything like that. I want you to do a self-examination. When pressure is applied to your life, what's coming out of you? Do cussing come out of you? Do I'm gonna blow this mug up come out of you? What comes out? Do you react in violence? Are you jumping on your wife? Are you slapping your children? Are you kicking the dog? What's coming out of your life when pressure is applied? Because believe it.